Hello and welcome to another edition of the Fifth Quarter. I'm Mike Ciarochi, sports editor of Herald-Standard.com, and joined as always by George Von Benko, author of Memory Lane, the column, the book.
Should it be the movie? No,
that would be something.
Would be something.
Also a radio personality, WMBS radio, talk show Saturday morning from 10 to noon, correct?
10 to noon, that's true.
And again, of course, we're here today to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers' most recent game, a 23-20 win over the Indianapolis Colts. First road win of the year for the Steelers, as Coach Mike Tomlin would certainly point out early and often. Something that you have to win at home. You have to win on the road as well. A gutty effort, I guess you could say. The Steelers drove the length of the field for the game-winning field goal as time virtually expired. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's another perfect example of why my father told me never to bet.
yeah.
Because the Steelers were heavy favorites, road favorites coming.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another example of actually it was a crazy weekend in the National Football League. There were some surprises everywhere, but I'm a little concerned. I mean, not that I'm saying the sky is falling or anything else like that, but there are reasons to be concerned about this Steeler team right now.
Yeah.
Particularly, they went through it before, but how many times can you go to the well with plugging people in up front and expect to get away with it?
Well, they have at least two new injuries there, possibly three. With the rookie Marcus Gilbert has a shoulder separation, I believe, as does Doug Legarski.
And Scott's got an ankle problem.
Jonathan Scott, that ankle is probably the most serious of the three.
Well, I heard several people talking about it afterwards on some of the post-game shows, and everybody said that he looked extremely unhappy. So, what are you going to do? If Gilbert has, they had to put him back in there because the only other option would be Heath Miller going to a tackle spot. And I don't think he would have been too happy about that. But
a couple of us asked Legarski about that. Who was the next guy up? And he said probably DJ, meaning David Johnson.
That might be, but Sean Kugler has done a tremendous job. Now you wonder whether Meredith is going to be an option, the guy that they played for him in Buffalo that they brought in, or once again the name of Flozell Adams has come to the top of the list again.
Well, and until he signs here or somewhere else, his name is going to continue to come up.
Yeah, it will, and I guess the problem before when Willie Colon went down was money. He wants an awful lot of money. They're not willing to pay that kind of money. They may have to reevaluate that. And the other thing is they want to get a look at him and just see how far out of shape he is.
Right, and I think it's going to take a little reevaluation on both sides. The season is another week older. No one else is banging down Flozell Adams' door to get him signed. He's going to. My guess is if they're going to sign him, it'll be a little bit of a compromise on both sides.
I think that there are ways to. Got to be creative.
And
the Steelers front office has shown an ability to be creative in the past. Now, that being said, the line is obviously my number one concern because they had no semblance of a running game. I think that at one point, Mendenhall had like a 15 or 17-yard run, and then after that, his stats were 22 carries for 17 yards, something along those lines.
You're right. He had a long of 15 yards. Which makes the rest of the day, 22 yards on 17 carries?
17 carries, yeah. So that's not getting it done. And now, a little controversy has opened up there because of the way Mewelde ran the ball late in the ball game. And he ran straight ahead.
North and south, Richard tends to be a dancer in the backfield. He likes to, bide his time and look for a crack to open. But, against a defense like the Colts defense, which is based on speed, that's not the right course of action. When a defensive line is quite intent on getting into the backfield as quickly as Dwight Freeney and company can do, your best counter move is to shoot the gaps, get through there before they have a chance to get you on the ground.
And that being said, we talked about the Indy Colts defense on our preview last week, and coming into this ball game, Freeney and Mathis, who had tremendous ball games, were almost non-existent.
Yes, right.
Which further points out, I think, what's going on up front with the Steeler line.
That's kind of a microcosm of the whole game. The Steelers gave the Indianapolis defense a little bit of life. The defense responded and gave the rest of the team a little bit of life. And the game went from a 10-0 Steeler lead to a 13-10 deficit before you could,
And I fully expected that they weren't going to roll over and die. I mean, their backs are against the wall. 0-3 right now. That's a tough hole to come back from. But they're playing on national television, nationally televised game in front of a huge crowd.
Yeah.
You thought that they were going to bring their best effort. That being said, let's look at the Steeler defense, too, because I really believe that Jim Caldwell and the Colts coaching staff made a mistake in not running the ball even more. What was the average? I think 4.6 yards a carry.
4.6, yeah. 21 carries, 97 yards. Yeah, they did. They ran the ball effectively. The one thing, the point I was going to make, similar yet different, was the Steelers, the defense, the secondary really held up well, I think, against the Colts. In particular, Reggie Wayne was kind of a non-factor.
But let's examine that.
He was targeted 13 times.
Let's examine that a little bit more closely. There were at least 3 plays that could have gone for really, really big plays that they overthrew or underthrew the receiver.
Yeah. And Dallas Clark, he was the other example I was going to make. He had a few drops, which is quite uncharacteristic for Dallas Clark. But fairly decent games from Pierre Garçon and Austin Collie. They combined for 11 catches. Yeah.
But as I pointed out to somebody else, I said, it was an extremely lucky evening for the Steelers that Peyton Manning wasn't playing.
Yes,
this game could have very easily been a big win for the Indianapolis Colts.
And maybe this is putting too much heat on the young Curtis Painter, but if Kerry Collins had stayed healthy and been in there, maybe this James Harrison sack and Troy Polamalu fumble return don't happen.
Yeah.
If they don't, I mean, you can't. We don't want to be revisionist broadcasters here, but I mean that play did happen, and the Steelers got the points. You never know that it did turn the game around, even though the Colts came back and tied the game after that.
That was not to say that it was all negative, because it wasn't all negative. I didn't like the 3 turnovers, which directly resulted in points, but Mike Wallace had a big game, even though it was pretty much the first quarter.
Right.
And I really liked the fact that the defense finally got a takeaway, and it resulted in points. So there were some good things to be said along that. That being said, there were some things that I saw that I didn't like. I mean, particularly up front on defense. I'm a little worried. I really am getting a little bit concerned about Aaron Smith. He's getting blown out of there an awful lot up front.
Yeah, he is. Whether it's his lingering effects of an injury or whether it's just age, whether it's the speed of the game, maybe increasing a little faster than he can keep up with it. I don't know, but that is problematic. The Steelers seem to have the pieces in place to replace him. Now, whether they do it or not is another issue. There's another concern from my perspective in the secondary. Bryant McFadden was a healthy scratch last night. He did not appear on any injury list all week. The point to me is one of two. You're either saving him for next week when the Steelers have to travel to Houston, which I don't think is a good course of action, or you're ready to make the move.
Well, I read something about that this morning, and apparently some of the reporters did catch up with McFadden, and according to McFadden, the hamstring is still bothering him.
Well, okay.
So if that's the case, I mean, this guy's been hurt since training camp. He didn't play in training camp.
Right. And even when he was on top of his game, I don't know that he's one of the top 3 or 4 corners on the team right now. Right.
Well, William Gay has been playing, and they're using
playing very well.
And they're using Keenan Lewis a little bit more, and some other things. As I said, My concern really is a little bit more with what's happening up front with the Steeler defense than the secondary. Although that could change because you're facing Houston next week, and they've got a pretty good quarterback, and they've got a very good receiver. They've got a tremendous running back. There's a lot, and I'll tell you something right now. The problems up front with the offensive line leads you to have even more concerns about the Steeler offense. They're not playing real well right now.
No, they are not, and I think they would be
the first to tell us that.
Next in line to tell you. But the stats are deceiving in this case. You look at Ben Roethlisberger's stats. 25 out of 37, 364 with the touchdown. And now it's not bad. Actually, pretty good-looking numbers. But then when you throw in the 3 sacks. 2 of which I believe resulted in fumbles.
Right.
And there was an interception. But here's the real point to me. Here's the stickler to me. 3 games so far this year, Ben has 1 touchdown pass in each of the 3, and that's it.
Yeah.
Only 3 touchdown passes on the season. He should be higher.
Right.
Should be higher than that.
Well, I think they've left some plays on the field, and they'll be the first to tell you that too.
Yeah.
And now, as far as the sacks and the resulting fumbles, everybody said, "Well, Ben's trying to make a play." So it's a good thing he held on to the ball a couple of times and made some plays in the game against Indianapolis because they certainly needed that. The one play that resulted in the touchdown, he didn't have a chance.
No.
I mean, Jonathan Scott had been pushed back into him. That was one time where I think Jonathan Scott was looking, and Freeney went right around him. He was expecting to get pushed back, and Freeney put another move on him and went right around him. And Ben, he was not hanging on to the ball there. He got hit.
Troy Polamalu, I thought, not only the fumble return, but he was very, very active. It seems to be back to the old Troy Polamalu that we're
he's moving around pretty good. And you guys notice in the press box how close he came on the Adai touchdown to breaking that whole thing up? He almost got the handoff.
Right, he did.
As we wrap it up, some positive things, but still.
I mean, it's a win. It's a road win. I heard talk last night about. Roethlisberger looked shaky, blah, blah, blah. But, hey, when the game was on the line, 2:09 left on the clock, he did what he had to do. Moved the team in position to get the winning points.
He got it done. My biggest thing is, as the week unfolds, what are they going to do to shore up the offensive line? I think that's the elephant in the room.
And don't be totally shocked if Bryant McFadden isn't part of that transaction. Hey, could be time for him to move on.
And free up some money.
Let the younger guys come up, the 2 draft picks from this year, let them put them on the field and see what. Can't be any worse, than the guy nursing a hamstring injury.
No, he hasn't done anything. So that pretty much wraps up our look at the Indianapolis Colts win, and we'll look at Houston a little bit later on in the week.
Yes, we will, and I want to thank all the viewers for checking us out, and we'll see you next time.